Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions, and another edition of Danny and Tim's Music Scene. We visit with Tim every other Wednesday, and it's always a delight for me. The audience likes it, and I like it probably even more than the audience does, and they like it. So we always talk about a wide variety of things, and darn it, this time around, we actually get to talk about a little bit of live music, as Tim was able to sample Lemonade Park down in the bottoms of Kansas City, and now I'll be going there too because he gives it a good recommendation, as you'll hear coming up. It's a live music venue that's outside, and people are abiding by the rules, and there's food available, and so we'll talk about that a little bit, as well as some other things that we can consume and recommend for you, including some Austin City Limits episodes, but one in particular I saw recently with Dan Auerbach from the Black Keys, and we'll get into his thoughts about that particular band as well, and an offbeat band called Shiny Ribs. I was thinking about the Dave Matthews Band the other day because it's something I heard on the radio that I'll get into, and also an old favorite of mine and a tragic story in the end was Warren Zevon, and turns out that's one of Tim's favorites too. So we got a lot of great things to talk about on this particular edition, and we vary elsewhere as well. It's always fun to visit with Tim every other Wednesday right here on Danny and Tim's Music Scene as part of our Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, all presented by Cinematic Visions. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Visions' goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. Firsthand, I have enjoyed the benefits of the CBD products from Canaway. My back feels better and better these days, as a major part of my routine are the pain-relieving salve and the pure gold oil. And recently I had the pleasure of a treatment session using the Canaway CBD in conjunction with the Microlight 830 cold laser. The non-invasive treatment session worked wonders, and I could barely tell I was even being touched. TML 830 is the first 3B cold laser to get FDA approval, and in addition, the combination treatment with CBD is patent pending. The new smart laser is the only hands-free cold laser in the world and is used by athletic trainers, chiropractors, MDs, physical therapists, and veterinarians everywhere. You can learn more about all the great benefits from the complete line of Canaway CBD products by contacting my friend Sherry McCants at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312 to get outstanding information about Canaway. I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson & Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092. It's time now to get some great assistance on healthcare with Chad Beisel from no-nonsense healthcareninja.com. And Chad, even your business's name would indicate that you have a real aggressive way and an important way to go after some health insurance for your clients.
What I've found out in the industry is just a lot of people are really confused. They don't know what plans are good, what their plans offer, how they cover. And so I've just taken the approach of being really educated on what options are available to clients and showing them all the options that are available and making sure they understand them so they can pick and choose what options are good for them.
And one thing that's really important, of course, is access to doctors and hospitals.
Absolutely. That's become a big issue for a lot of people. Some of the plans out there are going to restrict those clients to where they can and cannot go. So if you live just outside the Kansas City metro, some of the counties outside, you may not be able to go to some of the hospitals up here in the Kansas City area. So making sure that you have a plan that's got doctors and hospitals and places you want to go is really, really important today.
Learn more by visiting NoNonsenseHealthcareNinja.com and let Chad help you.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkScale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
It's another great session with Tim Finn. Always is, always will be. Always a pleasure to have the pleasure of his company as we talk music on Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions, and a little bit of live music in Tim's life. Let's start out there. We've talked a couple of times about the new venue, Lemonade Park. And first of all, revisit what the idea behind it is. And you had a chance to sample it last weekend.
Yeah, so Saturday night we went to see three Kansas City bands, Dan Jones and the Squids, Other Americans, and then Emmeline Twist, three bands that come at music in very different directions. So a lot of variety. It was really, really refreshing to hear live music, to watch live music in person, and to see old friends. And so this venue is outdoors. It's adjacent to a restaurant called Voltaire, which I highly recommend. So it's in this like 12,000 square foot outdoor place. And they have all kinds of tables lined up where, seating is limited to, I think, 4 to 6 people per table. So keeping 6 feet from people was no problem. And they have a different ticket tiers. So I think ours were like $20 or $25, but there's a VIP package, which includes food and beverages. So you can, and then you sit closer to the stage. And so this restaurant is just north of the Hy-Vee Arena or Kemper Arena in the West Bottoms. The weather was perfect and the sound was really good. Paul Malinowski, who does sound for Record Bar, was sound engineer, and he had it dialed in just right. I guess the best thing I can say about it is I didn't notice the sound because it was just what it needed to be. There were no sound issues. And the time between sets was really efficient. It was just really well organized and well orchestrated, and we are definitely going to go back one of these weekends.
What kind of capacity can they have, and how many people would you estimate were there?
That's hard to say. The space itself, it looked like it was about almost a third full, but it didn't seem empty. And the crowd responses were loud enough that it didn't, like I said, it didn't look like embarrassingly empty. It felt just about right. And like I said, there's ample room to walk around. When you're walking around, everyone had their masks on. Everyone was abiding by those rules, because if you didn't, I'm sure you would have heard about it. And so, yeah, I'm going to guess maybe 100, but that's just a guess. It's hard to, I can usually estimate crowd sizes because I know what the capacity is, and I've seen the capacity crowd. But so this was my first time there, and I don't know. That's just a guess, but it's probably right around there. It was sold out, and like I said, it was about a third full. So they are, paying strict attention to allowing plenty of room for spacing.
Do you have any particular thoughts about this particular venue? If you've heard about it, I don't know. Maybe the crowd's a little older. It sounds like it was really on point as far as people abiding by the rules, and then you'll see videos from down at the P&L and that particular venue there, and they had a thing a couple of weeks ago I saw where there was a country music thing, and there was like not a mask to be seen. What's your thought about
Right.
maybe the juxtaposition between those two things?
Well, there's no way I would go into an environment like that without a mask. I mean, that's insane. I don't know how. I mean, everybody wants to go out and have live music, but I don't want to. There's no way I want to do it that badly, and I don't know. I'm not sure why something like that isn't required to be enforced. It's not good for anybody because, I think we're one of the few areas that's in an uptick as far as cases go, and that's probably one reason why. So I would not go to a place if I didn't know. Like I knew what it was going to be like at this Lemonade Park, so there was no apprehension. And like I said, everybody faithfully obeyed all the rules. Like we saw people we hadn't seen in 6 months, and the urges to go up and hug and handshake, but nobody was doing that. Even it was just kind of like fake, hug from 6 feet away. But that was a little hard to resist. But like I said, even that people were abiding by that, and it felt secure, it felt safe, and there was no apprehension at all night. But like to answer your question, I don't know. That's nuts that events like that are even allowed. I mean, essentially sanctioned by the city, and people are right next to each other without masks on. No thanks.
Yeah, I don't know what value judgment or whatever. What do you have any theory as to why you'd have such a distinct difference in two particular venues?
I think it's just they probably conceded that if they required masks, they would have a smaller crowd, so they wanted more people, and apparently they got it. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm more wondering why the city. And I guess the mayor was down there for one of those and expressed a lot of concern, but I didn't hear or see anywhere where he, invoked some kind of mask, mandate or. I guess it's just I don't know. I mean, I guess the answer is because they want more people to show up, and they figure if they don't require masks, if they make it voluntary, more people will show up, and it looks like that's what happened.
Well, it's a great suggestion. I'll look forward to taking it in myself now that I've gotten a positive vibe from you as far as Lemonade Park is concerned. So great suggestion for people. I was reading an article about how some venues in Colorado are, handling music festivals and being able to do a few things. Most of them still are just live streamed. For instance, Red Rocks in Colorado, they can only have 175 people. The place holds 10,000, so they're not even bothering. Mm-hmm. So we're still consuming most of our music, maybe in shows or documentaries. And here's a couple. Here, one I watched a couple of maybe 10 days ago or so was an old Austin City Limits with Dan Auerbach from the Black Keys doing a solo material. This is from 2018, and a group called Shiny Ribs. It was a fabulous show. But I wanted to start with Dan Auerbach and the Black Keys because it was excellent. His solo album was very well received in 2018. It was an excellent set. First of all, you're not responding as if you saw it, but what are your thoughts on him as a solo artist and the Black Keys maybe in general?
Well, I saw them. I started listening to them when their first record came out. This goes way back. They sort of came not too long after the White Stripes emerged, and there was just another two-person band doing the kind of take on the Delta blues or the blues, blues rock, whatever. I saw them in South by Southwest at a smallish venue, and I enjoyed it a lot. But every time since then, I've seen them. The venues have gotten bigger. I saw them at Sprint Center, and frankly, they can't really carry an arena. They kind of got lost. They had some support. They had other band members with them. It wasn't just the two of them, but they were kind of in the shadows, and it just felt pretty cold and remote. And so I guess I would prefer to see them in a place no bigger than like Grinders or Crossroads KC, which is where I've seen them. That was better. I think their music, it has its limits. I don't know. To me, after I listen to 5 or 6 songs, it's kind of time to move on and listen to something else.
Right.
He's a really good producer. He has worked with, I can't think of anybody right now off the top of my head, but he has produced a lot of bands. A lot of bands go to him for production, and I think he's a pretty inventive producer. And so he's a really talented guy. And frankly, I don't really know. I don't think I listen much to his solo records. So maybe you can tell me how it differs from the Black Keys.
I would say it's just more like sort of a singer-songwriter folk music, generally more than what the Black Keys do, while openly admitting to being shallow in this particular case. Here's another issue with it as well. As we're watching it, and it was 7 or 8 songs, so maybe it fit perfectly into what you're talking about. My wife, after about 5 songs, she just paused the remote and she looked at me and says, "If only he was just a little bit better looking." and I understood what she meant. I mean, he's not exactly a charismatic frontman, but I did find kind of refreshing the fact that the Black Keys have actually made it, because those dudes are pretty homely, and they don't have a heck of a lot of stage presence up there. So
right. I
found it actually refreshing that the band has made it so big when they really don't have any sex appeal whatsoever.
Right, and they don't try to. I think the drummer is married to Michelle Branch, by the way.
Right.
And coincidentally, I watched an episode of Anthony Bourdain when he was in Kansas City. When he came to Kansas City several years ago. And just kind of randomly, he had barbecue with those 2 guys who, I guess they were in town for a show, or they were headed to another show and they stopped on the way. But that was pretty interesting. They're pretty droll and dry-witted, and they got along with him well. But yeah, they're kind of shaggy and unkempt, and I think they don't really care.
Right. Dan Auerbach looks absolutely like a stoner. He's got bags under his eyes for a man in his mid-30s that are epic, to say the least. If you have a chance out there to see this episode of Austin City Limits, I think they always have a number on them. I think it's number 43. But the other act was this band called Shiny Ribs, and I can't remember the source act that they used to be, but the lead guy it's sort of a Delta bluesy weirdo type of. It was good, and I can't remember his name, but it was a good support. And then he has 3 dancers, and it was kind of just a mashup of a lot of things. It was so typically Austin. Have you ever heard of the Shiny Ribs?
No, it's the first I've heard of them.
Yeah, well,
but I love Austin City. I love that show.
Yep.
It's so well done, and their roster of performers is just epic. It's so good. Pretty much everybody they have on I like or I discover and like. So yeah, I need to go back and start watching those, because we have access to them.
Yeah, that's from 2018, so I can actually highly recommend that one. And you probably have, if you're out there, folks, and you look it up, you'll never probably have seen anything like Shiny Ribs. They come, these dancers come out and they put a robe on the dude, and he's he's an older white guy with white hair and a beard, and but the music is good. It's not like it's totally offbeat. It's really interesting, and I can highly recommend that particular one.
A lot of campy pageantry.
Yeah, I think the dancers are called the Riblets.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So anyway, it's kind of an all-encompassing kind of weird show. But we want to look for things that are new and different these days, and we'll continue to do that with Tim coming up next as we continue with Danny and Tim's music scene. And we got a taste of some live music and a great recommendation for you. We'll talk about a couple of other things that are on my mind coming up next right here.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the CEO and president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you had a great year in 2019, a record year. 2020 comes, things are moving smoothly along, and then the coronavirus comes. But your company seemed to be very ready, very proactive, and very ready to serve your customers well.
Yeah, we adopted social distancing very early, before the cities even put out the notices. And we started working from home. We are largely cloud-based as a company, so that transition was easy. Our technicians are wearing masks and gloves, and salespeople are not meeting with homeowners. We're doing everything digitally and doing everything we can to do our part to get over this as quickly as possible.
So for any needs that people have right now, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, you can always call us, 913-257-5426. But the best way is to go to eastonroofing.com, put your information in, and we'll give you a call.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
Hi, everybody. This is Matt Llewellyn from 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence. I just want to thank everybody for supporting local restaurants during this time of uncertainty. 23rd Street Brewery is now open until this pandemic is over. And right now, more than anything, local restaurants need your help and support. Come on out and see us. 23rd Street Brewery is open now from 11:30 till 9 o'clock for dine-in and carry-out. Whatever we can do to help you out, maybe with your catering needs, too. I appreciate all the support. And thank you for continuing to shop local.
Let's spend a minute with Dr. Brad Woodle, who, along with his wife, Dr. Christina Woodle, the owners of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture, my home for chiropractic care. And first of all, just tell us about the wide range of services you offer.
Danny, we offer comprehensive chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapy, and rehab. We do a very thorough examination, x-rays on site as necessary, and we have a full rehabilitation department, so we can help out with exercises, stretches, different therapies for the complex, but also the very simple conditions we treat.
You have been deemed essential and have remained open all through this COVID-19 process. What are some of the things you've done to make sure that was the case?
From the very beginning, in March, we started to make sure that we were cleaning and sanitizing with EPA-registered sanitizing products. We also implemented masks way before the state required them. We implemented a parking lot waiting room, took out half of the chairs in our waiting room, and made sure to space out visits so we could appropriately meet, discuss, and also screen patients to make sure we were taking care of healthy people.
Find out more about Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture and how they can help you at asfca.com. Most of us have experienced auto accidents, and it's no fun. And even less fun is trying to work on the insurance aspects afterwards and getting full value after an auto accident. I'm here with David Cowan from wreckexpert.com. And David, you have an unusual and important niche for people after an auto accident.
We have a passion to teach car wreck clients what they deserve. Getting your car repaired only fixes the damage and the paint. Getting paid for your car's loss in value is called diminished value. Chances are you've never heard of this before because most people aren't looking out for you. We help people collect thousands to tens of thousands of dollars for their car's loss in value after the wreck.
And if somebody wants to come to you for that, what's the original assessment cost them?
We offer a free review of any insurance claim to see how we can help.
You can't beat that. Great expertise and assistance in getting full value after an auto accident from David Cowan. Visit wreckexpert.com and learn more. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Welcome back. We're with Tim Finn. We visit with him each and every other Wednesday. I do that every time, and it's a very poor choice of words. But alternate Wednesdays with Tim Finn from In Kansas City Magazine. He can be heard Thursdays on 90.9 The Bridge, on an excellent segment there featuring a lot of local music and just the insights that you get right here on a maybe more global way. The other day I was driving down the road on one of my therapeutic drives that my wife makes a big joke about it. I do it about every night now. And I flipped on, I think I'm defaulted to there now, on channel right around 30 and 31 on Sirius. My default right now is actually the Tom Petty channel. But right next door, for the time being, is Dave Matthews' channel. And I texted you about this, and there was a long song, as usual, from a live set from probably 10 years ago or something. And it was Dave Matthews Band doing All Along the Watchtower, and it mashed it up with Stairway to Heaven towards the end and then returned for the conclusion of All Along the Watchtower. And a two-pronged thing here. So I also texted my friend Curtis Siebold from Sports Radio 810. He and I are quite close, and we share a lot of back-and-forth music commentary via text and calls and things like that. And I just pointed out that, this was a pretty cool thing, and he might try to find it on YouTube or whatever. And his text back to me was, yeah, that sounds fantastic. You know, I've never really understood the backlash against Dave Matthews. And I had heard some kind of undertones about that, too. First of all, visit on that. Is Dave Matthews an artist that has had people, sour on him or things like that?
Well, I think he's like a lot of artists. He has a lot of fans. He's beloved by a lot of fans. I've been to several of his shows. They're always sold out.
Yep.
People are, some people are just nuts about him. I had a good friend who had probably seen him, I don't know, has probably seen him a couple dozen times, would go to Red Rocks to see him, would go, to Minneapolis and Chicago to see him. So there's that. And there's just a fervency about a lot of his fans. Although I noticed when I went to shows to see him live, there was also a contingent of fans who were just there to be there. So they talked a lot and they left their seats about 8 times and they were just there kind of for the event, and the music was kind of secondary. But and there were always, younger, early 20-something fans. And so I think there's just a kind of resentment for his popularity among a lot of people. A lot of people just find his music tepid, boring. He's a really great musician. He's a really good performer. I like him, but I can't say that I play him much at all anymore. There's a few songs of his that I like a lot. He's a really gifted guitar player, and I think his I can see why his personality might rub some people the wrong way. He's a little kind of joyous and goofy at times, and he makes weird faces when he plays guitar. Kind of like the way people feel about John Mayer. There's a, but I don't, I would say there's more a resentment of him, and he in some circles, like more of the indie underground, peripheral music circles, he's not disliked, but not taken seriously and kind of resented for just how popular he is. Like, I guess some people don't think he deserves it, but who's to argue?
Yeah, I've actually seen him 2 times at the Final Four. That's when I actually have seen him, and I had to climb a tree one time to actually get a decent view. And I always enjoy the show and his violinist. I think his original violinist passed away. Is that right? Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah. And that guy was a magnetic performer, and that really helped the shows. And maybe part of it is that it's a jam band, but it's not not the kind of jam band that's really offbeat. I mean, it's
not Widespread Panic. It's not Fish.
Right. Yeah. So maybe there's a little bit of that, but I'll tell you what, that All Along the Watchtower, Stairway to Heaven, that was pretty damn good stuff. And I'm sort of probably in the same boat as you. When I've seen Dave Matthews live, I love it. I think it's great. But I don't seek out his music ordinarily a whole lot either. So that's a very interesting phenomenon sometimes. Is there anybody else you can think of that – I guess sometimes what it boils down to is that fans like to discover people, and then when they make it big – sometimes they say, "Well, he's not as good as they're not as good as when I originally, They want their little secret to be all their own."
Right. Yeah, I mean, I used to feel that way about REM because I saw them at Hoke Auditorium. They used to, before they played Hoke, they were coming to what is now the Bottleneck in Lawrence. So yeah, they were doing small clubs, and yeah, you felt like they were your discovery. And then when they started playing arenas, it didn't feel the same. And you kind of looked at people like, yeah, you weren't there at the beginning, and you can't like them as much as I do. But I mean, that's kind of childish, I guess. But yeah, it happens easily because, yeah, like discovery, when you feel like you've discovered someone, you take some kind of ownership in it, and you want to feel like they're exclusively yours. And but yeah, that happens frequently. Coldplay was another band that got so big so fast that I just lost interest in them, because kind of like you would see people showing up, kind of like what I was talking about with Dave Matthews. They just seemed to be there for the events, and their allegiance didn't feel as strong as mine. And but yeah, it's kind of a strange thing, because who really cares why someone else is at a show you're at? It's what their motives are, It's,
Right.
why is that even relevant? But sometimes it's hard not to feel that.
I have 3 Spotify things that I do use out on the deck. I think I've talked about this before, and 2 of them are specifically designed so that there's more of a variety, and for other people, although generally they're all things that I like. And then one of them is kind of just mine for when I'm cleaning up afterwards and everybody's gone, or back in the good old days when they've gone down to watch TV while I'm cleaning up in our house. But the other day I was listening while I was finishing up the cleaning, and one of my favorite old tunes, Lawyers, Guns, and Money by Warren Zevon, came on. And it just made me, and I just scribbled it down because I said, I don't know if I've ever talked to, of course he's passed away for several years by now, but Warren Zevon is a very, very unique musician, although his music has a lot of similarity for the famous songs that he has. I was just curious about your thoughts about Warren Zevon.
Oh, he's one of my all-time favorite songwriters ever. Yeah, I have every record of his, and he is about as unique as it gets, because his background is in classical music, classically trained. He's an insanely talented piano player. I saw him once at a place called Parody Hall, which is down in the old city market, and this was probably in 1986. He played a solo show and was just masterful. I mean, he carried it so well. It was just him and a piano. And lyrically and musically, he's so unique. He goes into some pretty dark places lyrically. So I don't think there's anybody like him. And, when people start rattling off their favorite songwriters, a lot of times he's omitted. And to me, he's up there with Paul Simon and Randy Newman as and David Byrne is my favorite, and Tom Petty, my favorite songwriters. He's absolutely in the top 5. It was so sad when he died. I watched that last show he did with Letterman, and that was just heartbreaking. And that record he put out that sort of chronicled the end of his life is there's a song called "Keep Me in Your Heart" that he's basically asking people, in the middle, in the middle of any just ordinary day, stop and think of me, don't forget me. And it's just so sad.
And you talk about discovery. I originally discovered Warren Zevon because of Peter Gammons, the baseball writer. He used to write, he wrote for the Boston Globe originally back in the day, and that's where he became famous. And he would write a Sunday column which covered an entire page of the newspaper about baseball for that week. And it was fantastic. But at the end, he always had music recommendations. And his recommendation was Lawyers, Guns, and Money one time. And that's how I discovered Warren Zevon, as a matter of fact. And he did that with Five for Fighting and a couple of other bands that I completely didn't have any knowledge of. And so Peter Gammons, the baseball writer, was a musical inspiration for me as far as Warren Zevon is concerned. And I think another thing that happens is when somebody passes, especially before their time, whatever that means, what other people say about them really kind of reveals it. And when Warren Zevon passed away, I mean, people just came out of the woodwork to give him accolades.
Yeah, I saw Bob Dylan at the Uptown about a month after Warren Zevon died, and I think he covered 2 Zevon songs. I know he covered at least one. I think he might have covered 2, but Dylan completely admired him and looked up to him and was like, I kind of wish I could write songs like that. Things that he said about John Prine, So yeah, he was widely admired because his voice, his lyrical voice, his music voice was just so unique. You knew it was him, and no one tried to imitate what he did because you couldn't do it. It would sound disingenuous. And he inspired and influenced a lot of songwriters, but nobody has put together a catalog like his. It's just so. Bad Luck Streak and Dancing School was just a great record. I love every song on that, and they're all very different. And the lyrics are just sometimes so weird, but there's always it's not just being weird to be weird. There's a underlying point to it, and he was just so crafty and smart. And what a unfortunate loss because, you know, as he said on Letterman that one time, he goes, yeah, my years of ignoring my health and not going to a doctor finally caught up with me, and you know, probably could have prevented this, but what am I going to do?
I'll give one line from Lawyers, Guns, and Money, which kind of maybe encapsulates his unique lyrical style. It goes, I went home with a waitress the way I always do. How was I to know she was with the Russians, too?
Right.
And that's just a story about him being a spy. So, and by the way, to bring things full circle a little bit, you mentioned John Prine, Dan Auerbach's thing on Austin City Limits. He does 2 songs that he co-wrote with John Prine for his solo album. So,
oh wow, I didn't know that.
So that would probably be right in your wheelhouse, Tim.
I'll have to look that up. Yep.
That sounds good. Well, it's another great week. Glad you gave us a tip about live music, and I will be headed to Lemonade Park soon. Maybe I'll see you there.
Yep. We'll be there again for sure.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.